2003, the Nordics told me, go back in hundreds of year steps. That's not necessarily astrology, but in an 800-year cycle, we're there again. 1233 was when the Mongol-Jin War got going and the Mongols invaded China. At the other date, 1133, King Henry I, King Henry II, the handover. And also 1233, the Pope Gregory IX and the Dominican Inquisition starting to go after the Khazars. 2033 is the next important date that the Nordics are saying we're looking into now via astrology. So I said Uranus Saturn. That means really breaking down the reality. It starts first in Gemini, which is super fast, and then moves over into Cancer. While Uranus is in Taurus, that's only 7 years. They're testing out a digital currency, but a real planetary currency that is not owned by one nation is at least another 12 years away. Not owned by one nation is important because the world currency or planetary currency comes into effect to stop the wars and the resource wars that are really aimed at holding up the reserve currency status. Once this system of reserve currencies is replaced by a planetary currency, which I'm looking at 2031-33 more or less, then we will have the real change also in technology, and that matches with the astrology Uranus Pluto, everything we discussed in the past series. The internet itself, as I explained, is like a platform on which everything else will be established. But the internet as we have now is very fragile, technically very, very fragile. A solar flare will take this out. Other nations, for instance Russia, have done their own research. They say they have their own internet, and if a solar flare takes everything out, they are confident they have the solution. This leads us into the Titor timeline, the famous other timeline, and you can go back also into the text of Dr. Anderson, who shows us timelines into 2080, where he says that we will have a consciousness that comes about where we understand why we're here, what is the soul, and how does the internet fit into the soul, because the internet was really given by the extraterrestrials to the intermediaries who then gave it in test runs to different areas of the spectrum, for instance CERN, or the military that tested it out in the 60s, or the science people who need it for their projects, or the financial people who build their structures on it. So this is what's going on in this astrology. It began in 2009 with the Uranus Saturn opposition and will come to an ending as the Nordic cycle ends by 2033. That is the date of the Nordics we're looking at.